Welcome to the Hemp Revolution Demystified. This is the third chapter, and today we're going to talk more about what makes a hemp product worthy and what makes a good hemp product. So when you talk about hemp, the first thing that you have to understand is that everything starts from genetics. And in order to have a quality CBD compound, CBD oil, hemp oil, you need to start out with the genetics. And the genetics are so important because if you have a poor genetic strain, you may not have the concentrations of the health and wellness compounds that are so good in those natural biocannabinoids. So when you're looking at a hemp product, you got to align yourself with a company that's got a very good research and development program, especially from the genetic side. And the botanists are very critical, at least in the early stages of hemp development. Then you got to look at the hemp plant itself. Now, hemp is unique. Hemp is something that's called a bioaccumulator. Why that's important is because bioaccumulation is the process where a plant will concentrate certain nutrients, minerals, even toxins in the soil. And so hemp that's grown in places like Kentucky, Indiana, if it's grown in Tennessee, the Virginias, they're going to have a lot of issues with underlying toxins in the soil, especially in the tri-state area of Kentucky and Tennessee, Indiana, etc. There are a lot of dioxins in the soil and in the water. Dioxin is a particularly nasty carcinogen. We also have a lot of sulfur dioxide because there is a lot of coal that's burned in this area as a power source. So we have a lot of particulate pollution that's involved. Then when you go to places that were heavy tobacco industries and with regard to agricultural industries of, say, Kentucky and the Virginias, you get a lot of nicotinamides in the soil. Nicotinamides are the active ingredient in nicotine. So nicotinamides are actually a insect toxin. It's a neurotoxin, especially in high concentrations. So if you have a bioaccumulating plant that's grown in ground that has high levels of endogenous nicotinamides from previous agriculture, you're going to have some issues, especially trying to purify that product. Then the other issue that goes on, especially in those areas of the country that grew tobacco, is you have a high concentration of fungicides, you have high concentrations of commercial fertilizers, which then in turn have elevated levels of the heavy metals, cadmium, lead, arsenic, mercury, etc. And those are also bioaccumulated by the plant. Now, if you've got a company that's reputable and they take out those toxins, the heavy metals, you're probably better off than the average boutique CBD oil that doesn't have the wherewithal or the infrastructure to remove that. But nonetheless, if I'm going to consume a hemp oil, I want to make sure that hemp oil was grown in ground that was pristine to begin with and doesn't require a lot of changes with regard to purification. So where your hemp is grown makes all the difference in the world. You don't want Roundup. You don't want glyphosate in your hemp product. You don't want fungicides and things of that sort, biologics that are there to kill bacteria, etc. Because one of the things that most people don't realize is our energy systems are driven by a blue-green algae called mitochondria. And those mitochondria are very sensitive to molds. Think of penicillin. Penicillin was a mold that actually fought the bacteria, especially before penicillin became resistant to much of those bacteria. But nonetheless, you don't want to expose your precious mitochondria to toxins. Now, another critical issue with this is how the product is grown. Now, a lot of products will say that they're organically grown. Well, are they? Can they show some sort of validation that these products are grown organically, that they're grown with non-commercial fertilizers? And an organic product, it doesn't have to be 100% organic to have an organic certification or carry an organic label. It only has to be a percentage of that. So you've got to be very careful what the company represents and who the company is to be assured that your organic growing hemp is actually being produced organically. Another big issue is the harvesting of the hemp plant. Now with hemp, you gotta be very, very careful where that hemp is sourced from. If hemp is processed very quickly, it's fine because you don't have this huge biomass starting to compost essentially. So when you harvest your hemp, if you harvest it and then quickly dry it, commercially dry it, through industrial drying processes, you eliminate a lot of the molds and some of the bacteria that can get into the hemp product and ultimately be passed on through the hemp oil. So a company that has a process whereby they harvest it, they bring it into an industrial facility, they dry it very quickly, they process it very quickly, that's going to be critical to a clean and pure product. The next step in this whole thing is ultimately the processing of the hemp oil. Now, processing can be anything from cold pressing it, hot pressing it. They can use carbon dioxide gas under pressure. They can use ethanol. They can use other more toxic things like butane. So you got to be very careful what the company uses to process their oils. And ultimately, something like a CO2 or an ethanol processing is probably ideal. Now, the issue with ethanol is, although ethanol evaporates, it's a volatile, if the company doesn't take time to allow those volatiles to dissipate, you can have some carryover of that ethanol into the product. And again, that's not what you want. You don't want to add another chemical layer onto your product. Ultimately, if you get a company that is able to give you a certificate of analysis that can analyze the compounds and the subcompounds of the phytocannabinoids, if it can show you the terpene levels, if it can show you the bioflavonoids, it can show the biologics are zero, the molds are zero, the pesticides residue is zero, the heavy metals are below the standards for any sort of detection, that's going to be absolutely critical for a clean product. So when you're looking at your hemp oil, you really got to know whether or not that company has a valid certificate of analysis, and that makes tremendous difference in the health of a product. You don't want to take something as a health and wellness strategy only to introduce more toxins in your body. I mean, you're defeating the purpose. One of the things that I like about a handful of companies is that very, very, very few will triple purify their product. I know of maybe one or two that will triple purify. Now that's important because when you triple purify, obviously each purification process reduces the amount of potential toxicity. So triple purification, though, isn't very common because it's very expensive. When a company triple purifies, they lose product at every step of that purification process. And a lot of companies aren't willing to do that. They may do the first purification process, they may do the second, but like I said, very rarefied air is the company that does a triple purification. So insist and demand in that, because even if your hemp is grown under pristine conditions, there's always a potential for some unrelated toxins to be involved. And you want a company that spends the money, that has the infrastructure, that has the production capabilities to purify their product. Then you got to look at something else that's very important is the shipping. The shipping and having product that turns over so it's not sitting on the shelf, so it's not oxidizing. Oils oxidize and become rancid. And although there is a pretty good shelf life to high quality oils, some of the cheaper oils may be sitting on the shelves and becoming oxidized or rancid. Now, you don't want that occurring, because when you have a rancid oil or you have oxidation, it destroys your cell membranes. They're like little cell grenades or bombs that destroy the phospholipid membrane that surrounds each one of your cells. So that's absolutely critical to get not only a pure oil, but a fresh oil. Absolutely critical. Now, looking at an oil, you have to again look at the quality of all these things that I've talked about. It's great to have one of them. It's even better to have two of those things. It's very rare but essential, especially if you're looking for health and wellness, to have a premium grade oil that is going to meet all those high standards. And I had 16 different things that I want to look for in a company, and most of those were due to the growth, the production, the organic growing practices, the rapid harvesting and processing, etc. But one of the other intangibles is the company some company that you want to be loyal to, that you will feel comfortable consuming their products. And again, that is a very rare aspect of this consumer business side that is lacking. You need customer service. You need a transparent executive or C-suite group of people that is going to make the right decisions with regard to the product that you're going to be consuming. You want somebody that's innovative, that's looking at forward-leaning technologies like nano-emulsion technology, which takes large oil droplets and expresses a high-frequency sound wave to blast those oil droplets into multiple tiny little oil droplets to increase the bioavailability and the absorption. That's very important. And I'm going to talk about some of that in another video here. But you want to look at a company that's innovative, that's transparent, that's reputable, that's also got the infrastructure and the financial backing to stay the course during all this crazy Wild West change that is the hemp industry right now. A lot of small companies aren't going to be able to keep up with the regulatory changes that the government is definitely going to be putting in place. I think they're going to have to start regulating, and with that is going to require that those companies spend a lot of time as well as money to meet those challenges. So again, having a company that's well financed, has a strong balance sheet, has forward-looking executives and good networking, marketing, has a great compensation plan if you're in it for the social marketing and the network marketing programs. Those are all critical. If you have any questions about some of these, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Private message me on my account, my Facebook account, and we'll talk. But till then, this is another episode of the Hemp Revolution Demystified, and stay tuned for more. Thank you.